Hello everyone and welcome to the Resilience Sessions, a podcast that brings together injured veterans from Blesma, the limbless veterans charity, and a well-known public figure to share stories of overcoming challenges of all kinds.
The podcast provides an opportunity for our guests to chat with one another about their stories, sharing how they overcome their ups and downs so we can learn from them both. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to the Resilience Sessions. I'm Alice Driver and I'm joined by my co-presenter, veteran and Blesma member, Stuart Harris. We're joined today by two very special guests. Billy Billingham is perhaps best known for his role on Channel 4's SAS Who Dares Wins. Originally serving in the Parachute Regiment, Billy joined the SAS in 1991 and has been responsible for planning and executing strategic operations across the globe, receiving the Queen's Commendation for Bravery and an MBE for his service as SAS Ground Commander for the 2005 London bombings and for leading several hostage rescues in Iraq. Billy left the SAS to become a bodyguard for Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, a turn that led him to protect a span of A-listers, including Kate Moss, Hulk Hogan and Tom Cruise, before television eventually came knocking for him. Al Krol is a former Royal Marine. He was injured in a motorbike accident and paralysed, which ended his career and took him on a very different path. He went on to become an Invictus gold medalist, pilot, and now helps others to fly as well. He is also a Making Generation R speaker, inspiring tens of thousands of people with his story of resilience.
Great, so welcome to everyone. Let's get started. So Billy, the first question to you. Did you always know that you were going to be headed to the SAS?
Yeah, it's weird how I chose the paras. I'd done 6 years in the Marine Cadets. I'd gone up to Arbroath. I'd done training there. I'd done all this. So I was kind of gravitating that way, but I wasn't sure. And the Falklands had just finished. All the guys came back and we had a party for them. They all told their stories. And at the time, there was a paratrooper there who was a very good friend of mine now, of course. And he'd been shot in the Falklands live, and he was telling his story. And I don't know why. I just thought, that's where I want to go. I didn't want to get shot, but I thought that's kind of where I want to go, so I thought I'm going to go to the paras. However, I was open to join at 16 years old, and as I said, I weren't the greatest kid in school. I'd left school at 13, if I'm honest, after gluing the maths teacher to the chair and getting thrown out. So I was going rogue, and at the age of 15, I was working in a factory, 12-hour shifts. It's totally illegal, of course, doing the night shift in an electroplating factory. And basically, one night on the night shift, I had an accident. I slipped into a vat of caustic soda, which is 6 foot deep. But luckily, I went in about 8 inches, which was obviously the bottom half of my legs. And the pain was so immense, I was kind of backflipped out of it. And the guy I was working with grabbed me, ran me to the tap, turned the water on, all the skin basically just dropped off my legs. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital. So on the way to the hospital, they said, listen, you're going to have to lie and say you broke into the factory because we're all going to lose our jobs. It was illegal. So I did, I lied. Went there, the police came, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, whatever reason, I just got out of having a criminal record after 5 years at the age of 11. And I was now panicking. And I thought, I'm not going to get in the army because I'm going to get But they didn't do any charges. There was no charges made, all the rest of it. They obviously went to the factory and said, did he break? Yeah, he did break in. We don't want to press charges. So that happened. But at the same time, I was now nursing 2 big holes in the bottom of my legs. I had no skin on the bottom of my legs. So I could now get in as a junior leader, which I wanted to do. So over that period, I was then healing, sorting my life out. I had to stop boxing because I was going to the paras. I weren't heavy enough, so I was told. All this sort of stuff. So I was in a rehabilitation for nearly a year and a half. And I eventually joined the parachute regiment at 17, just over 17 and a bit.
And clearly you had a successful career in the paras.
I had a great career. I mean, I joined, like I say, 1983. It was still pretty fresh after the Falklands. So everybody there, my training instructors were very experienced, and I listened to every word they said. They were amazing people, but very firm and fair people. It was tough. And, as I'll tell you, and anybody who's been in the military will tell you, it's a funny old world. I'd never travelled out of Walsall before in my life. I'm now stood on a parade ground with 70 other guys, and I was the skinniest, the smallest, the youngest. They all had tattoos, moustaches, big arms, and jock accents. I never heard a Scotsman talk before. I shit my pants. And I remember looking down the line thinking, what have I done? And I think in the back of my head was the thought of, I need to be here. My dad says I probably wouldn't make it, so that was another kick on my butt to say, stay there. Yeah. And off it went. And then I had a wonderful career. Yeah, I joined the battalion in Belize. It was kind of classed as an operational tour, but it wasn't. There was a bit of activity going on the border between Guatemala and Belize. So you're on proper patrols on the border, stopping these people coming across, illegal logging, drugs, that sort of stuff, And you carrying live rounds as a young kid. That was like, ooh, This is real. And I'm in this jungle expecting Tarzan and elephants and all sorts of stuff and snakes, and it wasn't quite like that. It was claustrophobic, horrible, and then I gravitated and I enjoyed it.
How was it when you got to Hereford? What was the daily detail like compared to normal?
Yeah, well, that was, to be honest, mate, we're going through selection. People ask me about selection and stuff, and that was probably the hardest thing about selection was it was all now self-motivation. You were asked to go and march 27 miles. You were asked to do this. You weren't told and shouted at. So for the first time in a military career, as you'll know, is, like I said, from the Paras and Marines, you got somebody behind you shouting it, get up there and keep you as a team, as a unit. When you did selection, it was totally different. It was down to you. I could get up any morning and go, I don't want to do this anymore. And you could. It's no big deal. Pack your kit, off you go. No one shouted, no one cared. There's no encouragement, no discouragement. And then when you go to the regiment, you're then expected to be a grown-up now. Not to say that the Marines, Paras are not grown-ups. It's just a different level.
Yeah.
You are now expected... Yeah. You're here, you've got something to offer, and you feel like, I'm starting at the bottom again, but you're not. As I did, I got there and went straight into an operation, and I was like, there you go, you've got this kit, you're doing this, you're in charge of wow, this new world, so it was different. Yeah. It was very different. It was so fast-paced, I guess.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, Hereford is the SAS, for those who don't know.
Hereford's the SAS,
Yeah, okay.
And then, so Alex, you've heard Billy there, he was in the Marine Cadets, he's heard a few stories from paralysed legends and stuff like that. Did you always want to join the military? Was there a bit of a journey? Did you have a similar thing? Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so same as Billy. I started off in the Cadets, and I just think it's an amazing thing, whether you're going off on the wrong path or whether you're on the right path, but it just sorts you out, you know what I mean? So my brother, he was in the Cadets, and I joined the Air Cadets because it was a bit of everything in the end. You did your bit of flying, bit of army, bit of whatever. So that's where I gravitated to.
You joined the Marines, you pass out of training, and then tell us a little bit more after that, because obviously I know that it didn't go according to plan, but
So my career was very short and sweet, unfortunately. So it was about 4 years in total. So I always wanted to be a fireman. So that's where I wanted to go. And then I started speaking to all these firemen, and funny enough, they were all part-time Marine, reserve Marines. So I thought, brilliant, I can have the best of both worlds here. So I went to the unit, turned up, and day one, week one, there's 59 blokes on parade. And 18 months later, I'm really proud to say that was one of 9 who passed out and got the Green Beret. So it was funny. I wasn't the quickest, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the best. It was just that guy who just kept turning up, and I just wanted it. You know what I mean? So the sergeant, the first weekend, it's like look around, and he said, try and identify who's going to be there at the end. I honestly didn't think I'd be there at the end, but I found 2 blokes, and he said, go and make friends with them. So oh God, who's this? So I made mates with them, and funny enough, all 3 of us were standing there at the end. So yeah, I took the advice, and I just went for it.
And so you got your Green Beret, and you have this amazing path in front of you, but obviously you decided to go on a motorbike when you were out one day with your brother.
Yeah, I had my career planned out. I just passed out as a coxswain, so I'd drive the boats down in Poole, and I'd see the special people. Never really too fussed about being one of them, but and then me and our Pete, we meant to be kite surfing out in Anglesey, and the weather wasn't kite surfingable, so Pete wanted to buy a motorbike. So went along, and we picked up the biggest, fastest, most ridiculous bike you can ever have. And we went off, and Pete went first, and he's really giving it some, and I'm on the back holding on. And then it was my turn. And I had a bike license, but it wasn't a big, mad, fast bike. I was quite cautious, quite defensive. So we turned this corner, and the cars were parked for about 2 miles, and we were just waiting in traffic. And so we decided to get to the front of the queue. And I got to the front of the queue. But the guy at the front, he turned out, and he was impatient. He didn't want to wait, and just went straight into him. Wasn't doing anything nuts, anything fast. It just went straight in, and Pete went over the bonnet, and that bike, it came up and just broke me back in two. I just was on the floor, couldn't feel anything, and that was me at the age of 22. Broken me back, no movement or sensation below my legs, and that was me.
And how do you even start sort of comprehending or start dealing with something like that? You know, you're in the hospital and then you get told this news.
Yeah, it was, I think I was young enough and naive enough to think that everything will be okay. And I don't think it was, I think that my whole world was falling down around me and there was nothing I could do. But in the back of my mind, I always knew, I'd be okay. I think I'm not a believer in fate, but I think the training that I had with the Marines, and it stood me in good stead. I'd look around at the hospital, and then people just didn't have the shit together. They just didn't have the things in the right order. And I think initially I coped really well. And I was trying to leave the hospital, and we had like a case management meeting. So you've got the woman who wants to get rid of the beds, and then you've got the doctor, and you've got the OT and the physio. So each one of them said, yeah, let him go home. And it got to the psychologist at the end, Clive. So I got to him, I said, I can't let him go. And everyone else is looking at me, mum and dad are there, they're like, why not just let him go? He said, no, he's dealing with it too well, and he's set up for a big fall when he goes down. And funny enough, I got home, and then I was really sad, and it all hit me once I got home, but he should have just let me go. I went back to my mum and dad's, and as great as they were, my dad's a builder, so he built me ramps and a wet room and stuff like that. And my mum, she's fussing over me, but I'm a young lad, I'm 22, and I had a bed at the end of the living room with like a little curtain that goes across because we've got a house. So I'm sitting there watching Corrie with my mum and dad, and I was like, right, I'm going to bed. I wheel off to the end of the room, shut my curtain, and just be like, this is horrendous. But it's what I needed at that time. You need time to adjust. You need time to get home, to think about where you need to be. And then I got a car, and then got the car, started going to the gym, and then my life got better, and I started doing a lot better things.
So it sounds sort of slow steps that you kind of kept taking to move yourself forward. Yeah.
I just I tried to say yes to anything. I tried to open my mind to what was possible, and it was hard to adjust. I went back to the unit, and it just never felt the same. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do. So I kept in touch with my mates.
As in the Marines? Yeah.
And I'm still in touch with them now, and we'll go away and cycle and ski and do some good stuff. So they're the constant in my life. Still see them, and I think the bond that I've got between them, me and them, it'll always be there. But yeah.
And I mean, Billy, you must be able to relate to kind of that mentality as well of how, to tackle things, and sort of that the military mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough not to be in the same position as Hal, of course, but I've been in some ridiculous spots where I probably shouldn't have walked out of, and people haven't walked out of. And it hits you hard, but you've just got to sort of pick yourself up and think, you got to go forward. It's history now. It's happened. You've got to pick up the pieces of whatever it is that has happened, learn from it if there's something to be learned from it, and take it forward with you. You know, you can't sit there too long in that sort of pity party. And you know, you've just got to get up and do it and go forward, whatever that situation is, you know, and
yeah, I'll agree with you there. I think for me, I think once I accepted responsibility of the accident wasn't my fault, but I had to take control of that situation. You know, the doctor said, there's no way you're going to walk again. So there wasn't even a flicker of I'm getting a bit of progression. The doctor's like, it's not going to happen. So mine's a complete injury where you're just never going to get anywhere. And I think the moment I accepted that and then started moving forward, that's when my life got better.
Did you find the camaraderie of your mates really helped?
Yeah.
You know, because we've got a very dark sense of humour, and, you know, I always say the best medicine for a soldier is another soldier. Because a lot of people can't relate to who we are and our mentality, and, you know, just probably taking the piss out of you, saying like, oh, well, I'll take your trainers or I'll do this. It just makes you know what, life moves on, we get on with shit, don't we?
It is very dark, because I had my accident over in Sheffield. So one of the lads comes in and he walks in full leathers, sits down next to me. My mum's next to the other side of the bed. I was like, oh, what are you doing? He said, that's snake pass. He said, oh, you can really get your knee down on that one. I was like, oh, mate. I was like, Mum, go away for a minute. So, and then all the other lads in the world, it's all motorbike accidents. So, it is very dark, but you have got to laugh.
Yeah. But did you find that not so much the humour, but the camaraderie anyway, just having those guys around who you realise do care for you and you know, sort of help pick you back up?
Yeah, and it's unique, you know what I mean? I've got mates who aren't in the military, but I think you know, the guys that you might not see for, you know, some time, but you always pick up the pieces no matter where you are. And I've noticed that I've been away skiing, and other military blokes have come up, not knowing who we are, and maybe just having a little guess and saying, "Oh, do you need a hand?" And you know, it's great to see.
Mm. But I mean, Stu, you did rehab for a couple of years after you got blown up in Afghanistan, and I mean, you must totally relate to this conversation.
Yeah, I was obviously in Headley Court for about 2 years. And I'd say that my main struggle was obviously after I got diagnosed with something called post-traumatic stress disorder, and I ended up in a mental health unit for about 3 months. But that's where I needed to be, you know, to get the help that I needed and stuff like that. And it's horses for courses. Everyone's different. You know, some people are able to deal with it in different ways. I'm, you know, one of many who have sought out help, but I'm just it's just one of the way you deal with it. Everyone's built different. I didn't deal with it well at all, to the point where I was just the whole world was black, and luckily people were around me to see what was going on and was able to point me in the right direction.
But you're right, everybody deals with things differently, you know, and like I say, I've been in some horrendous situations, and I'm like, well, how's this not affected me? It might do later on, I don't know, but it does, I guess. And I think in the cold light of day, for all of us, you know, when you sit down and reality kicks in, you're there on your own and you start thinking about things, you're like, whoa. You know, that's when it really hits you. Like for you, Alex, you know, sitting there thinking, well, I'm never going to run again. I'm never going to walk. I mean, it's horrendous. You know, you need that support around you. And I guess the psychologist was just saying, you know, you're going to go out with this support and all these people dealing with you. Now you're going to be in not dark spaces, you're going to be in spaces and time on your own. Time to think, time to process all this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same. It's quite weird. And as you just said there, Stu, I got a mate here. I haven't seen him for 22 years. And he was like, I was with him yesterday. And the first thing we talked about was one of the lads who died with us. But the funny side of it, you know, and then I got in bed last night, I was just thinking about it. Gee, he would be now same as me. So you think about it, and I guess you have to. But I think it's good to be able to talk about it, and you have to be totally honest with yourself. And go, this is where I'm at.
Definitely.
This is it. This is reality now. You can't hide it forever.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is talk about it. A bit of humour now and again, but it does. It creeps up and sort of slaps you now and again, doesn't it?
Definitely. definitely.
So yeah, Billy, I was just going to ask, like, you know, tell us about your time in the SAS. You were one of 7 people out of 200 who actually made it to the end of the training. What was it like?
I mean, I say there was 200, and I think it was about 240 or so on the course, and it's same sketch. You know, I turned up day one. I've always wanted to do it, and there's a number of reasons I want to do it. One, you know, a lot of my mates have gone there. 2, I always want to know, can I do it?
Yeah.
Can I do it? But I also wanted it. It's one of those things, if you go on selection, you don't really want to play at it, you ain't going to be there long. You've got to, that mindset is, I want it. You know, and you ain't going to die for it, but you're going to give it your best shot and a little bit more. So, yeah, I went there, and I always thought, I went with the wrong sort of mentality, if you like, because I'd already been to the jungle now a number of times. I was pretty fit. I was an instructor at the depot at the time when I went on selection after I finished training with them. So I was really fit for the Earls. The jungle, I'd been 3 or 4 times with the parachute regiment on different times. I thought, I know it. I'm not worried about the jungle. That's easy. And that really was the wrong mentality, because the Earls was pretty easy to a degree, although I nearly failed it a couple of times. You know, it was tough. And day 2, we lost 80 people. Literally on day 2, on the fan dance, 80 gone, boom. And again, I look down and you always look at other people and you judge yourself against them. And I don't know why we do. You go, look at the size of him, he's sharp. And some people seem more confident and all the rest of it. And I'm like, I'm keeping my mouth shut. But as the weeks go by, the numbers get smaller. You look down the line and you think, I'm still here. And you kind of grow with confidence and get a little bit cocky with it. So I got through the Earls, that was fine. And then I went to the jungle. And I went into the jungle with totally the wrong attitude. And again, you had no encouragement, no discouragement. And you knew, if you make a mistake, they would see it. They've got eyes everywhere. Now I know that because I was a DS as well. I know how it all works. And you know, and you think, you end up beating yourself up. You do a silly little thing and just get into a fire position and stupid position, or not doing it, getting in a fire position. And all day long, you're going, I've been seen. I've made a mistake. They're going to bin me for it. So you mentally, you tie yourselves in knots. And then you're learning a new skill. The navigation out there is horrendous. You've got to be on top of that. The soldiering's not difficult. But there's a lot going on. It was hard. At the same token, I was enjoying it. And what kept you going is looking around the schoolhouse each morning. It got smaller and smaller and smaller again. And then you see somebody you think he's doing really good. Then all of a sudden he puts his hand up, he wants to go. And you think, whoa. Then the floodgates open. 5 or 6 will go. And that kind of gave me strength and more determination to go, I'm going to be here. I'm going to get to the end of this. And you know what? If they fail me, I'll be gutted, disappointed, but I can't be happy in my heart that I've got that far, you know. But I'll tell you what, I ain't going back and doing it again. That's what I was saying to myself, but I don't know whether I would or not. I didn't have to, thank God. But yeah, it was difficult, but it was great. And then it got to the end of all the stuff, and there's no big passing out parade. There's no, hey, this is how it is. You literally finish. You end up back in Hereford after you've done combat survival, which follows the jungle, a bit of counter-terrorist training, and there's like 7 of us left. And you're in the auditorium, and they just come in and go, right, Billingham, you're going to B Squadron, Mountain Troop. You do get asked where you want to go, and I went, I want to go to D Squadron, Air Troop, because parachuting, great with me, and all my mates were in D. Thought, yeah, I'll get that. Straight in, Mountain Troop, B Squadron. I went, I've never fucking climbed anything but stairs. You know, I never climbed nothing. I was like, geez. So there I was, bang, off to B Squadron. But it was as simple as that. There's no passing out parades, no well done, off you go. Yeah. And you literally went round the corner to your squadron. They went, right, we're about to go on an operation tomorrow. Get this. I was, whoa, off you go. And it was brilliant. This new world opened up, really did. And it went from 1 week I was a doctor at the Royal London Hospital, you know, flying down Oxford Street, pulling people out of cars and saving lives. And then a week later, I was learning a language of a country I didn't even know existed for 14 weeks. And then I was on a chainsaw course back at Home Lacey College in Hereford. I was thinking, the fuck am I doing on a chainsaw? I still don't know to this day what I was doing on that. but you were learning all these skills and all these, but they all fitted in somewhere, you know, and it was a busy, crazy time. And it was absolutely unbelievable and wonderful.
I was just going to say, the researchers handed us your military, you know, sort of CV, if you like, Billy, and it's just that we haven't got enough time to go through it all. But one that stands out for me is the 2005, you know, London bombings. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about that and your involvement?
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I don't know how much they'll let you put it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we were the counter-terrorist team at the time, and, you know, people were saying, well, we got caught with our pants down, I'll be honest, you know. And the reason that being was there's a lot going on around the world and around UK, and that crocodile was not the closest to the boat. We had other things going on, and that's what we were concentrating. I was a sergeant major, and I remember coming into work that morning quite early, and the clerk sat there, and we had big TVs in my office, and I always had them on mute, you know. CNN was on one and something on the other. And he's looking at me, he's kind of pointing at the screen. I went, get me a cup of tea. And he goes, Billy, you need to, get me a cup of tea. You know, who's he to talk to me? And anyway, off we went to get the cup of tea, and I thought, cheeky little turd. Anyway, I flicked the volume on. And he starts talking about a bombing in London. I was like, I thought it was like some program going on. I went, shit. Right, straight onto the phone to headquarters. They were in a flat spin. Everybody's in and off we went. And luckily, I mean, we are super tuned at that stage. Everybody was banging into vehicles, into alleys. Off we went, and we started to do what we had to do. You know, the gate was open. The animals had bolted, but we knew there's probably going to be something else after this. We have to. So that's what it was, and off we went, and just built this picture, this scenario, and things started to unfold pretty fast. And there was a lot going on, which I won't talk too much about. I'll frighten everybody. But yeah, it was a wild, crazy times running around the streets of London with weapons in Manchester and Birmingham and all this. You know, like, wow, this is our city. And it was annoying to think people are taking our freedom away. Innocent people are dying on our streets, the capital of the UK. We were angry, you know, but sort of posed and calm and let's do the job properly, and let's do it quick.
Yeah.
So that's how it was, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Alice, you were heavily involved as well, weren't you?
Oh,
that
Stu. I went to work in central London, and I just remember we were just in Holborn, and I was in the office, and I tubed in, and then just suddenly we just heard everything, and there was police surrounding us, and it was just we just spent the day just waiting and listening. And then sort of we all eventually walked miles home because everything had just shut down. But just, I mean, listening to what you've just said there is just incredible. And knowing that, I mean, ultimately that was, everyone, they didn't let on, but everyone was scared. And to know that you guys were there doing what you were doing was just thank God.
I have to say, I mean, we were sort of covering it, but something else was more going to happen. So our focus had switched a little bit, and when I say caught with our pants down, we had it covered. It's just something, and obviously then that kicked in quicker, and it was like, whoa, switch focus, bang, let's go. And we had it covered pretty quick, and then it started to unravel this issue, which was bigger than we expected, but thank God we had it covered, and we sorted it out, and stuff we'll never be able to talk about, thank God, we don't want to, but it was bonkers. It's almost like the COVID thing now, as you know, on the streets of London. And what I think, if I have to say anything, the government was pretty good. They're sort of good old British, resilience. Let's get back to normal. Yeah. And that was the right thing to do. Let's not cower away from these and give them what they want. Let's get back on the buses. Let's get back on the transport. But everybody was moving with caution, of course. And we had eyes and ears everywhere, and we were all over the place to make sure that we're not going to get caught again. And we didn't, thank God.
Yeah. I'm definitely with you there, Billy. After 7-7, it was great to see that we just it was as if we were saying, you're not winning, we're going to carry on as we have been the day before. So yeah.
And a question I've just got for you, Billy, before we move on to Al is, how do you feel about that weight of responsibility? You're essentially responsible for lives of people who are aware of it, but also people who have no idea as well. I can just
thrived in it.
Okay, that's your
I thrived in it, honestly. I mean, I was in this position of ridiculous responsibility. But I'd work with great people. I had great people around the team. It wasn't me; it was the team. These are the great people, and I was just sort of planning some of it or in charge of bits and pieces. But what was always weird to me was when I was making all these crazy decisions, which were actually policy changing for governments, our government included, and I always used to think, hang on a minute, I left school at 13, I've got no education, I was in, and I'm responsible. But I thrived in it. I loved it. And, you know, touch wood, I didn't get it wrong. I was lucky as well. It went really, really well. But it was all down to the teamwork, you know, everybody else supporting me and everything else. But it was brilliant. I loved it. I mean, it was scary to know the stuff we knew and what was really going on. And it was because, you know, my kids are out there and my family's out there and my friends are out there. And I'm thinking, whoa. And I'm not just talking about UK. I'm talking about globally.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know, relating back to the UK, and I think that was the hardest thing with the UK was just, it's on our doorstep. And we felt guilty in one way that this has happened. 50 some odd people have died. And there's the beat up factor, you know, like, you know, the guys will be able to, you kind of question yourself. You go, could I have stopped that? Could I have done something better? But what I always say is, you know, listen, it's happened. It's done. We can't change history. We can learn from it. You know, there ain't many lessons I would have changed with the situation there for the London bombers, like, you know, because really I couldn't. But yeah.
And also,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you know, thank God that you were there. And what an amazing, you know, amazing for you to be able to look back to that, you know, 11, 12, 13-year-old, you know, lads who left school and just sort of potentially had a very different path ahead of you. And
yeah. But again, that was down to good people and influential people who not gave in on me and went, listen, you are a little shit, but you can do something.
Yeah. So Al, I'm just sort of coming back to you now. You've obviously, you're still living with your parents, I think, but you've got yourself into, you know, a better place and you're coping with things. But you had a bit of a setback. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So for the next couple of years after my accident, I was just constantly saying yeah and just trying to do everything. Just anything that was on offer, I was giving it a go and seeing where I was getting to. But this is kind of 10 years down the line. So I'm away skiing with the Armed Forces ski team. So I'm sharing my time with other blokes who, you know, been injured, mainly through conflict and stuff like that. So it was a great time. You know, I'd ski with them, and we were away skiing in America against the Yanks, and something wasn't right. I can't feel 3/4 of my body. I've got sensation on my chest, and then anything else, I just can't feel or move. So I'm skiing one day, and things weren't clicking, and I was passing it off as like some type of water infection. These are the type of things that I get. But got home, back to the hotel, and something was like seriously wrong. So I flew home, and I got back into the house, and Jane, my wife, she said, you know, you don't look good. So we called for a doctor, and the doctor came in, and he sent for an ambulance, and I was straight into hospital. I didn't realise, but I had septicemia. So it's a blood poisoning, and it's the worst, most nastiest, horrendous thing you'll ever come across. And what I didn't realise was that 6 weeks beforehand, I went swimming one night, and the hoist to get me in and out the pool wasn't working. So I swam to the side of the pool, and I lifted up, and I didn't realise, but I caught my bum on a broken tile. And then the skin had healed over, and then this infection, it was just building away. And because I couldn't feel it, it was just building up, and it just hit me, and it hit me really bad. So straight into hospital, and I didn't realise, but the septicemia had gone right down my leg, travelled quite up into my stomach, and so the doctor, he had to cut away at my glutes and my quads, and he cut quite a lot away, and he did a big scar under my stomach, and he had to physically check all my internal organs and stuff, but patched me all up, and then I woke up, and that was the beginning of over a year in hospital trying to heal this infection.
Wow. And it wasn't this year in hospital, and weren't you also like, you couldn't move? Were you face down?
Yeah, so I was basically Superman for over a year, just lying forward. So obviously, in order for this to heal, I've got to jump back into my chair at some point, and then the skin will break down, and I'll be back to square one. So back on bed rest, and then I get a bit of confidence, and then, right, I'll go for it again, and then it'll break down again, and then so mentally it was just torture, Back when I had my accident, I think I always knew I'd be all right. But in this situation, I'm just like, I'm trying to get better, and I'm aware of all the things I can do. At this point, I can ski and play tennis. I can do loads of stuff, loads of really good, interesting, mega stuff. And I'm just lying there, and I just don't know if I'm ever going to get back to the point where I want to be. And this is my first year of marriage. This meant to be the honeymoon period, and my wife's coming in, and one of the worst things was that my whole family, the stress placed upon them was just breaking down, and there was nothing I could do. Quite often if something's going wrong, I like to think I'm quite practical. You try and sort it out straight away, but there's nothing physically you can do apart from just lie there and just try and stay sane, try and keep well,
And what mentality, how do you get through something like that? I mean, it must have the strength of character and mind to deal with that.
I honestly don't know to this day, but the doctor that came to see me, Dr. Sony, he comes in and he's a man of few words, and he just said, you're just going to have to try and dig deep. And he walked out the room. I'm in a room by myself, so I know I'm going to be here for a long time. I'm not on a ward. I'm the isolation. There you go. And it just got me thinking. Like in the Marines or Billy will know in the SAS, you used to dig deep all the time. In that degree, it was quite. You switch your brain off and you just try and keep going to whatever you need to do. But in this situation, I couldn't stop my brain. My brain was just working overtime and just, the hours of the day, and then you're just lying there. And I'm not great with books and reading and stuff like that. So I just, what I did thrive on was the support and the love of my family. So they were coming in and they were bringing me food, and I just had to clinch on to the fact that it will get better, and I will make progress, but it was just so tiresome. It was just it was really hard work, but obviously I got there in the end.
Incredible, and that is just amazing. I mean, Billy, I was sort of watching Al during that. It's pretty amazing.
I know you're trying to put yourself in that position. I don't know how I'd cope. I don't know what I'd do. I have no idea. I guess like he says, the love of the family keeps you going. And
yeah, I just felt there wasn't really an option to give up. You got your family around you, and then they really are banking on you to pull through it type thing. And like I said, it felt like an out of body experience. All the time I'm looking down on me, and the doctors are coming in, and it didn't feel real at all. It's just like, is this really happening? A couple of weeks ago I was skiing, having a nice time, and now I've got this infection. I'm lying here, people are poking and prodding me, and I really don't want to be here. And I just had to try and stick with it.
It's incredible. And I mean, Billy, we're speaking there about, Al's family, and obviously Al, you went on to have the wonderful Xander as well, who's just started school. Yeah. And, you have a family, Billy. How do you separate that? Because you put your job, or put yourself into incredibly dangerous situations. How do your family cope, but also how do you put those boundaries up as well?
I think, because of the nature of the job, obviously, I mean, you just have to compartmentalize things. and the family becomes one of them. And, I feel guilty for it at times because I was enjoying what I was doing. It was dangerous, it was crazy. And if I look back at it now, I think, wow, I could have probably done 3/4 of what I did and spend more time with my family. On some operational stuff, I volunteered to be on and stay longer or whatever. It's just the way it was. Looking back, I feel a bit guilty about it. But in terms of dealing with it mentally, on the stuff we were doing I won't say exactly where, but in the Middle East, I just remember thinking every night was a chance night. It was bad. There was a chance you wouldn't come back, and you would. I'd spend just a couple of minutes just try and get a call home if I could, and just say, hey, everything's cool, blah, 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 not talk about what we're doing, but just to hear the voices for one more time sort of thing, and just make sure that, they knew that I was thinking about them sort of stuff. And then that's it, done. That's it, done now. I've got a lot of things to concentrate. I've got a bunch of guys with me. I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and that would be it. And it was a boys' club. And I'm thought of it, it's a boys' club. This is our time, you try and block out the danger and the craziness, and you just go, we're off. This is it. And I'd always think to myself, it'll be over soon, and then I can make up all that time that I've lost with my family. But you realise they're sat back home and the news comes. They're not stupid. They know where you are, and a lot of times you could say where you were, of course, and sometimes you couldn't. But they're not stupid. They know where there's something not particularly good going down, and they'd watch the news. I'd talk to my missus after, and the kids. You could see the kids were traumatised a little bit by it as well. We'd come home, and it was always hard coming home. There was always an atmosphere between myself and my wife, and the kids would sit there and see if we were going to be arguing or not arguing. And I think some of that was down to not really decompressing properly after coming off operations and stuff, because we didn't. You just literally come back, you get home, and you're carrying a problem in your head that somebody got killed. And again, that question, could I have done some more? Should I have done more? Did I, and it's in your head, and you end up taking it out of your family, getting aggressive and bit snappy sort of thing, So we weren't decompressing, but at the time while it's all happening, you literally did compartmentalise everything. And I go boom, and it would always be the last thing before I was getting ready to go in for the last bit of orders before we went out. I took the pictures of the kids and go, done, finished, I'm off. That's it.
And were you scared of dying?
No, I don't think so. I'm not just big hero. No, I never really. I just kind of always felt it ain't my time. I'm going to be all right. And when some things I walked away from, we'll talk about it now, and I go, it's a cold light day as I talk about. I remember coming off a particular job, and it went really well, but could have gone really wrong. And we're just having a beer, and then we were all chatting, and just had like a little moment going, how did I just get? And everyone's going, why are you here? That humour again. Why are you here? We've already, bought a reef for you. Your name's been chipped on the clock. You're like, whoa, hang on a minute. And that just carries you through to the next dark moment sort of thing. But I never feared dying. I never thought about it. I never thought I would. Look, I was all right.
Are you the same now though, Billy? So I don't know about you, but I had a conversation with one of my old company start majors about a year ago. And it went along the lines of, in Afghan, Iraq, Sierra Leone, wherever, you had a job to do, a task to do. If someone, God rest his soul, left or right of you, took the hit, you dealt with that and then moved forward, patch up, crack on.
Yeah.
But now, I feel, and what we were talking about is how we've had to change our mindset. Now you're living with we're living with our families a lot more, that we've had to change. You have to, grow maybe. But I am more fearful now than when I was in the army. So I was dealing with, contacts left, right, in Chelsea, whatever, when you're out on tour. Yeah. But now I'm more fearful for my life than what I was then. And I can't quite pinpoint it, but I don't know whether that's because
or more fearful about dying.
Now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I am,
yeah. I wouldn't use the word fearful. I'm more aware of it, and I'm more prepared for it.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head right there, mate. I now do. I've now made sure I've got proper life insurance. All I think about now is, because like yourself, we're reading every day a friend of ours just committed suicide, or he's done all this and he's just been killed in a car crash, or he's got cancer. And I'm thinking they're younger than me or my age, and I'm thinking this can happen to me tomorrow. So now all I think about now is how do I want my kids to, what do, the kids to think of me, my family think of me, my friends think of me.
Yeah.
I'm making sure I've got things in place so they don't have to worry too much, taking care of funerals, all that sort. Yeah, so you're more aware of it, and it's realistic now.
Yeah.
There's nothing more important than friends and family and friends. My kids are my everything, and my wife and my family. That it's all about them now. I've had my time. They've stood by me. I've had my fun. I've had my wild boy days, and now, hey, I'm now really responsible about what could happen and be prepared for it as best we can.
So is this why you do your charity work? Because that's something that...
No, I think most squaddies are really charitable. We're all charitable, and it's never something that's never highlighted. I mean, the reason I do it now, and I do a lot of it, is because it fell into place in Haiti. Prior to that, I'd done runs for cancer, like most of the lads have. I'd done this, I'd done that, helped out, but I never really followed it through. What does it really mean? What does charity really mean? And where does it all go? And all this sort of stuff. And then when I was in Haiti, the earthquake happened in Haiti, and I went out to donate and build an hospital because the company I was partners with in Iraq, that's what we did. So I went over there purely to help, and we didn't want anything from it. We knew we'd seen all this poverty around the world and all this destruction. So we knew. So I went over there to do this. But while I was over there, I really did understand what charity was. And it's about giving, but it's about giving the right thing at the right time. There's only one thing you should give with charity, and that's dignity. There's nothing worse than... But like I said, there's a time for doing things. There's a time for getting in there and giving you medical skills, giving clothes, giving food, giving water. But then there's a fine line of when that stops. And then you've got to give the people that are suffering a chance to stand on their own 2 feet. Give them that dignity. And I watched this when I went into Haiti, 6 months down the line. I only went in to donate these things, 7 weeks come out. I'm still there 10 years later. But I'm watching these foreign people come in and giving T-shirts and money and sweets and stuff to the kids. And the poor mom and dad stood there thinking, why can't I do that for my kid? And the kids looking at the mom and dad going, why aren't you doing it? Why is this person doing it? So we then formed a charity called Rebuild Globally, and it's a free-phase charity. And basically, I take care of street kids, basically, get them into education. I pay for the schooling, the clothing, all this sort of stuff, and proper education, and they go do proper exams. It's not as hard as UK because they're in the same standards, but it's good. So they do all the education through each phase. If they stay with the education and they finish that, then they go into a year's job training, which I take care of those 2 aspects. And then the final aspect, the turnkey solution, is a job. My wife runs a mainly women-run factory out there, taking tyres off the street, making sandals, makes jewellery, and she employs all the people. So if they go through the whole programme, they get a job. And we're in the position now where 2 of our kids have gone through university and they'll take over the factory. So it'll be Haitian owned. And it's amazing. And I love it. It's brilliant. And I've been doing that for 10 years. Now where I'm at, I love where I'm at. People say to me, how do you feel about this? I hate the word celebrity. I'm not a celebrity. I'm somebody that's known now because of the telly. And I hated it initially. It's weird. But now, you know what? I love it. Because people actually listen to me and help. And it really does make a difference. So I enjoy it. I've got a veteran charity as well called Phoenix Heroes, which are amazing. Same thing. And to me, everything's about turnkey solution. You can't half do something because that's worse than doing nothing. So like Phoenix Heroes, we help the veterans on the streets and people in danger, veterans who are suffering, get them firstly into a safe place, a home of some sort, and then into a job. And it's slow and it takes time, so yeah.
But how amazing that, with the factory, that it's you have created something that a social enterprise, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And now you can, and it's exactly what you say there, it's the dignity, so that you essentially almost like can just step away. Exactly. And then it's about empowering them, upskilling them, and that's what it's all about. And I mean, congratulations. Well, what a legacy to leave. And I mean, just with that sort of charitable spirit, like, Al, you are, I think personally, such an inspiration. You've gone on and got involved in Invictus Games. You're a gold medalist, awesome. Told when you were up against people who could basically walk and you were their competitors, and then you get a gold. And then you become a pilot, but you don't just stop there. You actually then, you're now teaching people how to be, to be pilots. I'm sure that's not the terminology.
No.
But tell us.
I think, obviously I had my accident and I was 22, and I genuinely feel like, I feel like I came like an opportunist. I just saw things, you know what I mean? So the next couple of years, like, yeah, I'm doing this, doing that. And then if it was half decent, I'd keep going with it and try and give it a go. So the likes of the tennis, I've been losing the tennis for about 10 years, you know what I mean? And then the Invictus Games kicked off, and I thought, I could do this. I think it's my time to try and win one or two matches. So yeah, and the Games was amazing. The Games was all about your recovery journey and your pathway. And we've got Prince Harry who set it up, and I don't know where he is these days, but so he set it up, and it was just a brilliant thing, because like I always felt bad because I never felt like a proper veteran, and a veteran to me back in the day was someone who'd been out there, done it, saved the country, and I often felt like a bit of a fraud, a bit of a cheat, because I was trained up to do a job that ultimately I didn't do. But when the Games came about, I was starting to mix with all these other veterans who, I met one guy who signed on the dotted line, was in service for like 25 days and then had a car accident. And I was thinking, well, at least I did 4 years type thing. And then you meet someone who got cancer and you're like, that's not very nice. So there was all these different types of people. And with my injury and my accident, I just thought, I can, the way I deal with my accidents, it might rub off on other people, and other people, might see, right, I can do what he's doing. But the Games was it was just a magical time, you know what I mean? You become a proper athlete and you're training, and went out there, and before going out, like, my wife was coming out later on, and she just left me with those immortal words of, you best still be in those games by the time I get there. It's like, oh no. So like playing, and there was no rankings for the game, so we played the Yanks, and this was meant to be the final, and it was round one, you know what I mean? And we nearly lost. We nearly lost, and we nearly stacked it, and we were nearly coming home really early, and we didn't. We won on their turf, and then we went through, and we got the gold medal, and it was just brilliant, you know what I mean? Just I never got a chance to serve for my country, but I was wearing the Union Jack, and I just thought, I've gone for it, and it's my time to represent the Corps and represent and try and do the best I could. So yeah, I was chuffed with the Games, and yeah, doing flying now, and I try and run flying days for veterans. So I used adaptive hand controls, and I just love it, you know what I mean? I get up there, and when you fly, you are the same as everyone else. And I'd land in like a little airfield, and I'd get my chair out, and then everyone's looking at me and they're thinking, oh, no way. That man in a wheelchair just flew that plane, and there's no instructor with him. And, so it's just that good. And obviously I'm getting these guys flying, and they're just all bonkers, aren't they? They just all want to do loops and rolls, and you've got to check they're mentally stable before jumping in the plane, because they just want to go faster, don't they? But I'm hoping to continue that, and I set days up for Blesma, and hopefully that's where I want to go in the future. Maybe even build a plane. Who knows? But yeah.
Well, don't take Billy up. He'll try and jump out of it. Won't he?
Exactly. Just very quickly, Al, how long ago was your accident? Because you just still look, whatever you're doing with your skin, I need to know about it, because you still look so young.
Thank you. It's just, I'm just out a lot. But 2005.
Okay,
but I've had the teeth done.
Yeah, they look good. They look good.
That's why. I love it. It's the Hollywood smile.
It's good. It's working for you.
Dear.
So just coming on to our last couple of questions now.
So some of the guests that we've had on have described a sort of a light bulb moment that they used in tough times. Was there a light bulb moment for you guys? You know, I'll take this to Billy first.
Yeah, my mantra, if you follow anything, is always a little further. And that started when I was a kid. I basically attacked an old man who chased me, caught me, and rather than give me a good hiding, spent time with me and took me into the gym, and he went, here goes luck. And when he taught me what boxing was all about, why, and all this sort of stuff, you know, it was about anticipation, it's about thinking, it's a poor man's game of chess. He taught me all this, and I remember him saying to me, and it's about always going that little bit further. When you're out of your comfort zone, just don't give up and keep going. And I always think of that. And in the darkest, the craziest times, I just sort of say to myself, we're going to get through this. And as bad as it is, and you look at something and you think, you can't give up. I go, there is an option. I've just got to find it. I found an option. It ain't a good option, but you know what? I'm going to persevere. I'm going to go with it, and I'll get out of it. And I've been fortunate enough to do that. And I'll always say that. And just don't give up. Get used to being in that uncomfortable zone and just keep going. Just don't give up. You know?
And what a wonderful man.
Light bulb or my drive. That's what I do. Honestly, I just go. Because I know also, like now, you know, I look at things and I think, one day I ain't going to be able to do this. So I'm going to keep doing it till I can't do it.
And what the same to you, please, Al?
Yeah, so years ago, I met a little guy called Tom. And at this time, I became a wheelchair skills instructor. So that was my little job. About 2008, and I went on this residential and met Tom and his dad. And this course, there was 10 people on the course, and all of them were girls, the young participants, and Tom was 9 or 10, and me, Tom and his dad were the only boys, you know what I mean? So straight away, we were just together for the whole week, and we were like, right, we the lads got to stick together. And my job for the week was to show them how to use the wheelchairs and become more independent and confident in the chairs. And then by the end of the week, Tom's dad, he's like confiding in me in Tom's accident. And he said, you know, Tom was involved in a road traffic accident. I was like, oh, well, like me and our Pete. And he said Tom's mum was driving the car. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of the same. And then he said that Tom's mum was drunk. And my heart sank, you know what I mean? Me and our Pete, we were the grown-ups on that day, and we knew we accepted those risks and took them on. But Tom, he didn't. He put all his love and his trust in his mum and dad, and they failed him. So it got me thinking, and this is my moment where it really hit home to me, like my situation, because, you know, at that time, I didn't really feel like I had an identity or a purpose, or, you know, I was away teaching these kids, but I didn't really have a path, or I just didn't know what I was doing, you know what I mean? I think this little guy put me in a situation where I could really reflect and thought, right, I'm going to start doing things. And I got home and started making a plan of how things were going to go for the next 5 years. But up until that point, I didn't really know. But just to let you know, Tom's doing all right. He's now a wheelchair skills instructor himself, and he's doing well. But it was that little guy that gave me my moment.
Wow. Gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the final question, which I kind of feel we might have answered. So if you feel like you don't have anything to add, then just say. But if you could tell your young self one thing, what would that be?
Well, it's always just, as I said, never to give up and set yourself a goal. People will say to you, look, if you put your mind to something, you can do anything. That's not true. You can't. Because if that was the case, I'd be flying with Alex, or I'd be running with Usain Bolt. You can't do everything, and you can't do everything, and you know. But by setting yourself that goal and going for it, you'll be in a better place than when you started. That's a fact. And I'd say to anybody, any younger kids, do that. Even if you think that goal's impossible, have a go for it, because new avenues open up once you step over that start line into that new journey.
Amazing, thank you. And Al, how about you?
Yeah, so I'd tell myself to chill out a little bit. I think everything for me there's got to have a purpose and meaning, and I've got to win, and I've got to try. And but sometimes in life, you've just got to let things go and just enjoy the moment. So I'd tell myself that, and just to get ready for the roller coaster of life. That's going to happen more when kids come along. They're mental.
A very crazy roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, well, just a massive, massive thank you to you both, Billy and Al. You have been absolute legends. It's been a real honour to be able to listen to you both.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for inviting us on. Honestly, it's great. And if people enjoy it, or it gives somebody some happiness or comfort, it's brilliant.
I'm sure.
That's what we're all about. And Alex, I'd just like to say, mate, you are most certainly a veteran.
Oh, cheers.
100% veteran.
Cheers, Billy.
And you.
If you need a plane for the next series for the contestants, I'm your man.
You know what, mate?
I'm your man.
You're gonna wish you never said that.
I'll fly it. I'll fly it. You push them out.
Yeah, happy, mate. That's my job. No, thanks. It's lovely to be
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Coming up next week, we talk to Chief Fire Officer and all-round superwoman Sabrina Cohen-Hatton and veteran and Making Generation R speaker Josh Bodgy. Also, don't forget we are releasing a remastered episode from Series 1 every Thursday. This week we hear from Johnny Benjamin MBE and veteran Stuart Harris. Thank you to my co-host Stuart Harris and everyone in our production team. This podcast was generously funded by Blesma, the Limbless Veterans Charity, delivered by the Drive Project, supported by Facebook, and presented by me, Alice Driver, creator of the Making Generation R campaign. Huge thanks go to Cy Harmer, whose idea lit the torch paper of this podcast, and to you for listening.
If you've been affected by any of the issues discussed, then please take a look at our webpage or show notes, where you'll be able to find more information on support services.
Should you like to listen to any of the veterans' incredible stories, then they are available as part of this podcast series on the Making Generation R website. The Resilience Sessions grew out of the Making Generation R campaign, a project that trains injured veterans from Blesma to tell their stories, so far to over 100,000 people, from the young and vulnerable to frontline services and first responders across the UK. To find out more about Making Generation R and to book a free talk or workshop if you're a school, just Google Making Generation R.
If you've enjoyed listening today, then please do subscribe. Give us a 5-star review and share it with your family and friends. You never know who it might help.